£40 million for Antony. What a boost that is. Surely not. Surely not. 40 million? Manchester United believe they can get 40 million for Antony. Well, that's a huge boost. We'll talk about that story. Garnacho. Amorim is willing to let Garnacho go, even though he likes the player and that Garnacho has grown on him as he has other players he prefers in that position. Another player that Amorim's willing to let go is Mainoo. Surely United wouldn't sell Garnacho and Mainoo in the same window when this time last year they were seen as untouchable, same as Højlund. Surely not. Now, Mainoo obviously has this new contract that he's in the sort of, him and Man United are trying to sign a new deal, and Mainoo hasn't signed a new contract, and there's wages and there's things going on there. So I feel like a lot of the news around Mainoo is going to be more dramatic than it actually is, because people are using the fact that he hasn't signed a new deal yet to maybe make out that Mainoo is leaving, when more reliable sources have said, look, Mainoo's expected to sign a new deal. But reports are saying that Amorim's decided Mainoo can go, and that Amorim doesn't rate Mainoo. I don't know if I believe that story personally, but I'll give you my thoughts on that and I'll read out that story. Amorim speaks on Rashford. We've got a big injury boost and updates on Aiden Heaven and his return. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football. And welcome back to your 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news, and update roundup. I'm also filming this actually while the Youth Cup semi-final is going on. It's actually half-time in extra time right now. Matato's come on. He's been really good. So hopefully by the time I finish recording this video, we would have knocked Villa out the Youth Cup and be in the final. But you know how I was saying earlier that I'm not very good at pronouncing names? Watch the Youth Cup. The commentators will make me look good at pronouncing names, because I've just sat here watching the Youth Cup and they're literally mispronouncing the names. He's been called like Chidi Obi Martin, and I swear he just said Chobby Obi. The pronunciation has been criminal in that game. But look, we're here to talk about the news. So, talking of youth and academy player Garnacho. Alejandro Garnacho could leave Manchester United this summer. Ruben Amorim counts on him but prefers other players in his position. Now, I believe this report. And I believe that Garnacho could leave. Manchester United were more than open to letting Garnacho leave in January. He wasn't actually starting that many games around the January, February, December period anyway. And he's not stylistically the kind of profile that suits the 10 in Amorim's system. So, talk of Garnacho leaving in January, how close it was and how Ineos were willing to let go with him and Amorim was willing to sell him, that doesn't shock me. Now, what we do know is that Garnacho has really grown on Amorim in the last month or two. Amorim said 2 or 3 times over the last month that this was Garnacho's best game. And we know that Amorim likes the electricness of Garnacho since he's gone to the right and sees a player there as exciting. I don't think Ruben Amorim wants to get rid of Garnacho, but I think if £70 million came in for Garnacho, Ruben Amorim would definitely consider that. I think it would depend on the replacements available, because I think he knows there's probably better players for his system and what suits him. Now, the way I look at it is Garnacho is a talent. He's 20 years of age, and for his age, he's incredibly good. Not many 20-year-olds are better than Garnacho. You've got obviously Lamine Yamal, they're different species that are younger than Garnacho, but not many 20-year-olds or younger are better than Garnacho. And I think, there's the feeling that actually if we're patient with Garnacho, it could really, really work out and he could be a top player for us. But at the same time, we need the money. FFP, 70 million comes in for Garnacho. Probably not the best fit for our own system, as he's more of a traditional wing in a 4-3-3 rather than a 10. It's something to be considered. I think Amorim looks at it and thinks if you can sell Garnacho and replace him with a player that he thinks better for the system, he'd do it. But I don't think he'd actively want to sell Garnacho, because I think he'll understand, his potential, how highly rated he is. And I think he'll understand that he is a raw and frustrating player. But I think the last 3 or 4 games from Garnacho has been really good. And I think he has something that nobody else at this club offers, which is that directness and eagerness to attack, which, I know he's frustrating, I know he's wasteful, but, he gives us something. Now, one player that hasn't given us much, but if he could give us £40 million when he leaves in the summer, Antony. Now, he has been absolutely incredible at Real Betis. Manchester United are confident they will be able to sell Antony for £40 million this summer, and Atletico Madrid and several Italian clubs are monitoring, said P. Hall and iPaper Sport. Now, the way I look at it is I'd take £25 million for Antony and just take 25 million, get him off the wage bill and go. I think we actually need 28 million to avoid making a loss in terms of the book value in regards to PSR. Now, Real Betis, if they finish in the Champions League, could give us up to 30 million for Antony, but you're not going to get more than 30 million from Real Betis for Antony. They don't pay big fees. Now, the one good thing about Antony doing so well in La Liga and being so suited to La Liga means not just Real Betis will be interested in him, but Atletico Madrid could be interested in him. Other clubs could be interested in him. And I don't think Man United will get 40 million for Antony. If we do, that's thank you. But I think the better he does, the more competition there is, the more that we could get something like 35 million. I don't know if it would go to 40 million, but that would be ridiculously good money. But Pete Hall and iPaper Sport are saying that United are confident they could be able to sell him for 40. I think this is a game because of what Isco said about, crowdfunding and Antony to try and convince Betis that they're confident other clubs will give them 40 million to try and get Betis to pay up the 30 million they want, where Betis want to pay 20 million. I think this is more of a negotiation tactic. I don't think we'll get 40 million for Antony, but what a bit of business that would be. It was also said by Pete Hall that Surgeon Ratcliffe is willing to back Amorim in allowing him to bring in the type of players he needs to fit his footballing ethos. Young players at peak fitness are the main requirement. And I think one thing about Ineos is they're really ready to back Amorim. If he wants a player gone, they will work on getting him gone. Rashford went out on loan. They could sell Garnacho, who's still as untouchable. They could sell Mainoo. We're going to get into that story in a second. They do want to back Amorim in his system. This is the first coach they've appointed, and they're confident he can make it work. So they're really willing to back Amorim. But how far is too far when it comes to backing Amorim? Because Man United have this cycle where we sack managers every 3 years, and if you sack Amorim and you get another manager and that plays a 4-3-3, and we've sold Garnacho and we sold Mainoo, and they end up being really top players, we'll look like idiots. And there is talk of, Amorim being open to selling Garnacho and Mainoo. Now, I don't completely believe these reports, but I'm going to get into them. Cashing in on either Kobbie Mainoo or Garnacho remains a serious option this summer. Mainoo is understood to be entering the idea of seeking a move away from the club, with the youngster yet to put pen to paper on a new contract. Amorim is not completely convinced Mainoo has the fitness levels to be successful in his system. The club could therefore reluctantly sell for offers around 70 million. I think there's elements of truth in this, but I think that Ruben Amorim will rate Mainoo highly and understand the level of talent there is there. And I think Mainoo is one of those players in talents where you'd make him work in the system. If you get what I mean, he's actually recently adapted the system for Casemiro and he's had a few better games. Now, I think United could cash in on one of Mainoo or Garnacho. I think they're more likely to cash in on Garnacho. But I do think there's a lot of talk that Man United will sell Mainoo for 70 million, this and that. If Tyler Dipling's 100 million, why is Mainoo 70 million, first of all? If Adam Wharton's 100 million, why is Mainoo 70 million, second of all? I think, in my opinion, a lot of this is nonsense. I think because Mainoo hasn't signed a new deal yet, even though Romano and everybody reliable said he's expected to sign a new deal, people are using it as a scaremongering tactic to write reports that Mainoo will leave. I don't think he's going anywhere in the summer. I think people are like, well, he's not played a lot under Amorim, he's had injury issues. We don't know if he's better in the pivot or the 10 and Amorim system. And he hasn't signed a new deal, so he could leave. Let's write a story about him leaving and him not suiting the system because, that's what people are worried about. But I feel like Mainoo will be here, and I think that Mainoo could be a success under Amorim. And I don't think Amorim is sat there saying, I'm not convinced on Mainoo, let him go, because this is the best 19-year-old talent in football, or top 3 best 19-year-old talents in football. So I think it would be silly to sell Mainoo for 70 million if Wharton's 100 million, Dibling's 100 million. I think, one of Mainoo or Garnacho could go, and he might think that Mainoo's not the guy for his system, but we've not seen Mainoo a whole lot because of injury issues. And the Mainoo I saw last season was unreal, that he should be untouchable. The squad should be built around him. So I think a lot of this talk of United selling Mainoo for 70 million is just because Mainoo hasn't signed a new deal, and it's an easy sort of report to write because Mainoo's agent will be putting out information that Mainoo's open to leaving to try and get more wages out of United. And United will try and, put out reports that they're willing to sell Mainoo to try and scare maybe him into signing the deal that they want him to sign. I think a lot of it is because he's not signed a new deal. This speculation kind of fuel thing. If you get what I mean, I don't know if that makes sense. Let me know your thoughts. It was also said Amorim has decided Mainoo and Garnacho could be allowed to leave this summer if suitable replacements are available and strong offers arrive. Manchester United remain reluctant to sell either star, but if one were to be offloaded, it's more likely to be Garnacho, with the hope that Mainoo will eventually sign a new contract. But they don't want to sell Garnacho either. I think it depends on the offers coming in, the replacements, and if Ruben Amorim believes it's a better decision. Talking of what Amorim believes was a good decision was obviously offloading Rashford to Villa, and he's asked about Rashford for the 9th millionth time, and he said, I'm focused on my team and my players. Rashford isn't my player right now, but I'm happy when our players do well on loan. Of course he is. 40 million for Rashford, 40 million for Antony maybe. That would be brilliant stuff. And 25 million for Sancho. We could get 100 million for Rashford, Antony, and Sancho, which would put us in a very strong position where we wouldn't need to sell Garnacho or Mainoo, who I don't want to sell. I think it's way too early to write off players that young, even if they've not had the best season, and I think they could work in the future. Continuing on, Amorim spoke about injuries and said that Luke Shaw's not ready yet. Mason Mount is feeling better and was on the bench last game. He should be back. He basically said Mainoo was close to return but not ready quite yet. Evans is recovering and Aiden's recovering. Maguire is ready for the game. Yora is ready for the game. And he also said in regards to Aiden Heaven that he won't be back for this game, but it's not that serious and he should be back soon. So some positive news coming in there. So that is your Manchester United 10-minute news roundup. Thank you for watching today's video. Big up everybody on the news. Big up everybody. Let me know your thoughts on the news and more.